they're proud. They're walking tall on the golf course. They got this guy's name on their bag. And one of the things that we do, it's a promise to one another that if somebody asks you about the strap on your bag, you actually have to tell them that story. You have to tell the story of that guy. So that guy's legacy is paid forward. I would dream of doing something like that, but I want these guys to graduate better human beings than when they got here.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Switch Up Sports, and coming to you with another coach interview. We have the pleasure of having on Bucknell's men's golf coach, Coach Mike. I'm not going to waste any more time. We were chatting it up already in the green room and having an awesome conversation. So without further any ado, let's go ahead and welcome him in, Coach Mike.
How
Coach,
you
how are you
doing, Dale?
doing?
I'm doing
I'm
well.
I'm doing so well. I'm super excited for the conversation. Coming into this, we were already chatting a little bit just about how golf and basically it's a wrestle back and forth. It's a love and hate game, but the beautiful part about it is you can wake up and you can play it virtually any day of your life as long as the weather's right.
Exactly.
So what got you into the game? What is the thing that has you coaching now? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background of how you even got where you're at.
Sure. So my dad got me into playing golf and baseball were the two sports I started playing when I was like 5 years old. A
Nice.
little wiffle ball in the backyard, and my dad used to take me to this dinky little 9-hole course outside of Boston in Quincy, Massachusetts, Furnace Brook Golf Course, and it was a little 9-hole golf course. And just got my taste for the game. I'm 61 years old now, so I've literally been playing golf for 55 plus years, and
Wow.
it started then, and I've been doing it ever since. Mostly playing recreational golf for the majority of my adolescent and adult life until I got towards the end of my military career, and then I started taking my game a little more seriously and went to golf school after I retired from the military, and ended up working as an assistant pro at Evansburg Country Club in Western Pennsylvania. And a good buddy of mine was the head coach at St. Francis University, Nick Wheeler, and he invited me to join the team as a volunteer assistant coach. And you'll hear that in the coaching ranks in golf a lot because the universities won't pay assistant coaches any money, so they become volunteer coaches. And I was that for a couple of years, and it got my taste for coaching as opposed to working at a country club. And when the job at Bucknell became open, the old coach retired. I interviewed and came out here, saw the school, loved it, and the athletic department we made a connection, and they hired me, and I've been here ever since. So I just finished my 11th season at Bucknell, and been loving life, and it's been a great experience.
Nice. That is awesome. Especially like the fact that you're talking about like the little wiffle ball stuff. Um, More importantly, like I feel like every kid that does that kind of stuff ends up just being naturally better than anyone else needs to be. And is it really natural, or is it just, hey, I spent so much time as a kid just like playing around, hitting this little ball and not thinking about it, and then it turns into this, hey, I can hit this golf ball really well. So if you grew up kind of near Boston area, yes, like are you
Yes,
Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots? Is that run true? Is that for you as well?
and the Bruins. Yeah, I've moved around the country quite a bit. In the 20 years I was in the Marine Corps, I moved 9 times into various places around the country, from Florida, California, Virginia, all around. I've never stopped rooting for the Red Sox. I've never stopped rooting for the Celts, the Bruins, or the Patriots. So, the first several decades of my life was spent in agony until the Patriots started winning, and then the Celts were winning, and the Red Sox were winning. So it was a magnificent transformation in the early 2000s. But I guess I've come back to earth now, and our teams are, well. I know the Celts are making a run. Hopefully, they make a comeback against the Knicks here. But yeah, I'm through and through. I've been a New England fan, a Boston fan my whole life.
Yeah, that's been nice for you. You had a nice little run. I think the Patriots sucked a lot of the juice out of a lot of things. See, yeah, I'm a Chicago fan, so I've had one of the roughest stretches of the last 10 years.
Yep.
Historically bad season last year for the White Sox. The Bulls are in this continue. We're just good enough to be a bad team, continually the same every year, the 10 seed. Then the Bears are the Bears. And the Blackhawks, well, I'm shocked that they didn't get the lottery pick, but it's been it's been a bad 10 years to say the least.
Understood.
I don't even watch sports really anymore because of it. Like they've completely turned me off. I can't watch. It's disgusting. It's just pitiful. It's bad. Like the schedule release yesterday, I like try to get my hopes up. You know, you want to be a fan, you want to root, you want to say, oh, we'll be 500. Like that was, me being optimistic. I was like, I
Sure.
think I think they can get to 8 maybe. So if you think about, the fact you played not just golf, it wasn't, the only thing that you did. Do you use that with your coaching? Do you use that in other little instances, or are those some of the guys that you like to bring in as well, or guys that maybe just didn't play golf, they had a touch of some other sports as well?
I've had both kinds of athletes on my team over the last 11 years. I've had guys who have literally done nothing else in their life except play golf, and they're very I want to say mechanical, but they're very smart about their golf swing. And then I've got guys who are just natural athletes, and the benefit to the natural athlete, and it's nothing against the guys who are are single sport athletes, is they're able to figure it out on the golf course. If they're not having the best day, tee to green, the athletes are the kids who can figure it out. So those are the kids that you want to have on the team, because not everybody's going to have their best day every day. And you don't have to worry about them as much as you have to worry about those players who, um, yeah, they're having problems and they're going to have a bad day, and that's just the way it's going to be that day. So yeah, I do like having those athletes because they can figure out the hand and eye coordination, and they can still put up a good score.
Do you think that comes down to like a different level of competitiveness based on, and I don't mean that as like, I know a lot of golfers that only played golf that are ultra competitive,
Yes,
but it's a different kind of competitive, like, hey, it's 3rd and 3, like this is a crucial, like high stakes game type of competitive versus like, you kind of get what I'm saying? Like, do you think
I do.
that's part of it?
So that breaks players down into two different categories: the guys that want to know exactly where they stand coming down the back nine of a 54 hole tournament, and the guys who just want to concentrate on playing the best golf that they can. You get both kinds, and there's no right answer. Some guys like to know, hey, if they got 3 holes to play and they're one down, they want to know that, so they know they need to make a birdie. Other guys, you tell them that they're gonna spaz and not play their best golf. So you got to know what kind of player you have. And during the interview process, when I say interview, when they come for their recruit visits, their initial visits, I'll ask them these questions in the office. I'll say, hey, are you the kind of player that absolutely needs to know what the other team is doing, what the other individuals are doing in the tournament? Because you're within a stroke or two of winning, or you've got a 1 stroke lead. Do you want to know that? Some of the guys are like, absolutely. Others are like, don't even mention that, because I just want to play the best golf I can. So you got to know your players. That's all that is to it. There's not a right and wrong to that. It's just either one. Either one works. You just got to treat them differently.
Yeah, exactly. And so something for that in terms of like a coaching. And again, I think you kind of more hit the nail on the head in terms of knowing it beforehand in the recruiting process, and doing your kind of due diligence essentially to really get to know those guys. But having a coaching style out on the course, and if it's hey, we're kind of off the rails, I guess again it's more guy dependent, but like what's a thing that you want to try to help steer these guys, if it's just, hey, I understand we've got 54 holes, but like if someone's starting to get kind of off the rails, what's something that you're going to do to try to get them back on track?
Well, first of all, just go and talk to them and see how they're doing. Maybe they're a little hungry, maybe they're dehydrated, maybe so. I'm a one-man band on the golf course. I've got 5 guys competing in a tournament, and they're in 5 different holes. I'll usually spread out on 3 holes, like they're between 3 holes. That's how many groups it takes for 5 to fill in those 3 holes. So and we have live scoring. Basically, nowadays in college golf, every group's going to have one guy who's going to be assigned to keep score for that group. So I can look up to the minute and see, hey, this guy just made two bogeys and a double bogey in a row. I need to go visit him. And I'm not going to talk him off the ledge. I'm just going to ask him how he's doing. Hey, what's going on? And usually just allowing them to get it out in the open. Like, coach, I just had a rough stretch. I just bogeyed and then double bogeyed the last hole. And it's like, I always tell them, I said, it doesn't matter what you just did in the past. Let's just focus on the remaining holes you have for that day. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? You a little dehydrated or whatever? Just to get their mind off of what they just did, because these guys will obsess about a bad hole that they had. Not all of them, but it's a downfall with golfers, the ones who can't let go of a previous hole, a bad hole. And it's like I'm not going to change my feelings about you just because you had a bad hole. You're the same person you were before that, and you're the same person afterwards. So love you just the same, and let's focus on what we got going forward. So that's kind of how I treat it. I'll look on the scoreboard and see who needs me. And then there's guys that I literally in 4 years, I've never read a putt for them, and I've never given them advice because they're like clockwork. And those are the guys that you don't have to babysit. And there's some other guys that need a little bit of more TLC when you're on the golf course, and you figure that out very quickly. Who needs some encouragement, and who just you can leave alone, and they're gonna get the job done.
Yeah, and I almost kind of look at it, and I just kind of I didn't really think about it before, but like golfers have way more of an opportunity to be just like a cornerback. Hey, like I know you just got burnt. You still have a lot of the game left. Like we gotta figure it out, show up,
Yep.
like go again. And hey, I got a bad bounce off of a pitch mark that I didn't even see in a green, and that putt was dead center, and it got a little wiggle, it got a pop, it got something. And like you said, some of those guys were oh, it's just maybe yeah, maybe you haven't had water in the past two holes, maybe that's really all you need. Or yeah, take a couple bites of a little protein bar, like that's
Sure.
really all it is. And looking at it from that aspect, do you guys dive decently heavy into analytics? Where do you line up in terms of the we're gonna love analytics, we're gonna love what it shows, we're gonna look at and dive into all the numbers? Do you jump full on board into that, or do you just kind of use it sparingly and as a flavoring to a degree?
I would say kind of in the middle. We have an analytics program. We're using Circles right now. We've used that the last couple of years. The guys seem to like it, but the analytics comes in after the round is over, after the tournament is over. Actually, even more after the tournament is over. When we're going home, they check their strokes gained or their lack of strokes gained for a particular area. But like during the tournament, no, I'm not talking to analytics with these guys. It's all up here. Just power, positive thinking, and just getting them to play the best golf, because I already know they can play the game. I already know they can score. I'm just trying to keep them in the best positive mental attitude I can during the round. Certainly, it's frustrations, and I've experienced my own frustrations on the golf course over the last 11 years. But no, as far as analytics are concerned, it's a post round, post tournament type of thing. And some guys don't want to know any of their analytics, and if they're getting the job done, I'm fine with that. And some guys like absolutely have to know strokes gained, putting, strokes gained off the tee, all that stuff, and that's fine too. So.
So do you work that into a lot of your practices, or is it something that again it's more or less guy dependent, but do you kind of look at it holistically and say, well, you know what, we need to work on stuff 125 and in, or you know what, we're struggling with our 5 foot and in putts, or we're really lag putting poorly? Do you look at that and kind of judge, hey, that's what our Mondays are going to look like, or hey, we got to work on this before we go play this event where we're going to have a lot of wedges in?
We'll discuss it in team meetings and focus on what we collectively think the team needs to do. In the wintertime, we'll dial up the TrackMan inside our simulator and work on our wedge game so that the guys know what 120 feels like, what 80 feels like. But we don't really have a particular day dedicated to analytics and what that means in terms of what we're working on as a team, whether it's short game, mid iron game, or driver game. That's very, very player dependent. Every guy will have a tournament that plays in the tournament will have a good portion of that tournament and a not so good portion, and that's going to be different for all five guys. So that next week, they're going to be concentrating on the thing that they need to concentrate on, whether it's putting, lag putting, short putts, or getting out on the golf course and just playing more golf holes, because we've got a university owned golf course. And we all collectively agreed this year that because the conference championship was at our home course, we're going to play more golf and do less range time, less practicing over here at our facility. So we concentrated on just playing as many holes as we could during the weeks leading up to the conference championship. So very player dependent. One size does not fit all in terms of analytics and what you're going to work on that next week.
And then you went ahead and you jumped into that next thing that popped in my head in terms of practice facilities and what other types
Sure.
of facilities that you guys have. So you mentioned course, what things are you guys looking at?
Our course is kind of unique. It's a 6,300 yard par 70. So on paper, it looks really really short. But anybody who comes and plays this golf course realizes that at most a college player is going to hit about 5 or 6 drivers on this golf course out of 14 or 13 potential holes, because we have 5 par 3s. And it plays a lot longer than a regular 6,300 yard golf course, because a lot of these guys are hitting 2 irons and 4 irons and hybrids off of tees. So their approach shots are much longer than you would normally expect on a 380 yard par 4. We play this golf course a little differently, and it doesn't necessarily line up with the golf courses that we play in the geographical area when we're playing Colgate or Cornell or Yale's golf course, or whatever event we're playing typically is around 68 to 7,000 yards, and that's not our local golf course. So we love our course, but we realize it's not a typical college golf course. And we love having our home invitational every year, because teams come here and they think they're going to rip it up, and they don't, because they're like, oh man, this requires a little bit more cerebral golf than I expected. They can't just bomb driver on every hole, and they get themselves into trouble, and they quickly either figure it out or they have a bad tournament. So it's kind of a fun golf course to play.
Yeah, I think that's more the fun of when golf really starts coming in, when it's not just, hey, it's stock. Yep, we're teeing it up, we're letting it rip and fly, and then we're chipping and putting all day. Like
Yeah.
there's to a degree where like golf has gotten to a point where we kind of talk. You've seen the full like jump of kind of ridiculousness with some of the technology that's in golf. Do you see any way that we ever regress, or are we just going to have to find somehow to get more land to change the way that some of these courses are built, or do they need to just look back into a course like you guys have, where it's like, hey, well, you got to kind of design and really style this thing up?
I think that our golf course, just by accident or design, ends up being that kind of golf course, which does not accentuate the bombers in the game. But I do think that technology needs to halt at some point in time, and we need to restrict the growth of the golf ball and the growth of the trampoline effect of said drive, or whatever one they're using, because eventually, if they are allowed to go unrestricted, you're going to have clubs and balls that are going to go 400 yards. You already do occasionally, but like, the 320 yard drive 30 years ago was considered like the longest hitters on tour, and now regular college golfers are bombing at 320, and the long hitters are hitting at 360, sometimes longer, and that significantly changes the way you play an old golf course. Thankfully, ours is protected enough that they can't do that. Occasionally, they do get away with it. Occasionally, they don't, and they hit it out of bounds, because it's just that tight of a golf course. But I do think in the game, in order for us to protect the game, we're going to have to. The ball itself cannot be allowed to gain more distance simply through technology, and I don't think that the drivers. I mean, irons are irons, metal is metal. Balls bounce off of that. I know they can trick it out, but nothing goes further than a well struck a muscle back if you hit it pure. You can put all the technology you want on an iron. It's not going to perform any better than a well struck iron like that. But with the driver and the fairway woods, yeah, you're going to have to put some limitations on technology, because technology is business. It's make the best one, make the farthest one, because they want to sell more golf clubs. But eventually, you're going to have to put some kind of restriction on that, or else you're going to have to. Every golf course is going to have to get longer, and sometimes you don't have any room. We don't have any room to make ours longer. Our tee
Now,
boxes basically sit right next to the road that it goes inside of. So
oh wow. Yeah, because I mean, like you even think it's like, okay, well, like we're up to 460, like 430 is more than enough. 420 is more than enough. Like the distance that's being and speed that's being generated is getting quite ridiculous. And I think Oakmont in next month could get interesting. I mean,
good.
if I think if the weather gets semi interesting, but even then, if it's not, if the weather's nice, I don't think it's going to be an issue because they've gotten that good. Like, do you see it
Yeah.
getting out of hand? Like, do you see it finally being an over par tournament next month?
Well, the USGA can only make the fairways so narrow, and they can only grow the rough so deep. When you have 6-inch rough and you can't find the golf ball in the rough, it gets a little ridiculous. It's hard enough. I mean, if you have to chop out into the fairway, and the fairway is only 20 yards wide, it gets a little bit too punitive in my book. And you just got to let the ball. You got to let them play. And this idea that the USGA has to keep a U.S. Open at or above par, I think, is going to be harder and harder as technology grows. And then you have these famous golf courses that they almost can't host opens anymore. And Pebble Beach is a perfect example. And what did Tiger shoot at Pebble? I can't remember his overall score, but he destroyed the U.S. Open under par record at the time. And yeah, so I think that uh, on the best day with great weather, these guys are going to rip up Oakmont if they can hit the fairway. You know, they can only trick up the greens and make them so fast before they become unputtable.
Right. And I think that's yeah, it's an interesting thing to try to go with because I mean everyone looks at what happened at the Byron. It's like, yeah, it was lift clean in place for 3 days too, and like that's already an easy golf course. Now
Yes,
you made it wet. Now you made it to where they can lift clean in place. They're just going to be throwing darts into every single green. Like of course they're going to shoot what they shoot. Like
sure.
you gave them the almost perfect because it wasn't like the course was unplayable. It wasn't like there was standing water. So it's like, okay, it's a little soft. Okay, perfect. Let me throw this one right next to the hole, and it's gonna stay right there. Like it
Yeah.
was a bit ridiculous. I mean, it's fun though. Like I think it gets kind of exciting when it turns into like, oh, like all right, like let's go score. Like let's have some fun. Like that can be enjoyable. Like people like rooting for birdies. I don't like cheer. I don't like. It's hard to clap for a guy when he's like, ugh, he just chopped out of the rough 2 times. He tried going for it the first time, then he chopped out. Ugh, he just got up and down for a double. Like you can't clap for that. Like that hurts.
No.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's
That's.
it's oh it's pitiful. But
I'm glad they only do it once a year because, for the other majors, the Masters is the Masters, and the PGA is never as hard as the U.S. Open, and the British Open is so, or I should say, the Open is so cool because they play all those old golf courses, and they're hard enough for American golfers and other non linksy type golfers to go over there and do well on it. That's exciting to me, and I could care less what the score is as long as it's competitive, and everybody's playing the same courts the same day, so it really doesn't matter.
yeah,
So
that's the beauty of golf. That's the hey, everyone. It doesn't have to look the same, but everyone, you're playing against this ultimate beast that's under your feet. So let's kind of forward look here. Let's look for the team. Let's look to some things that you're looking forward to this next season. Let's look forward to some things that you're looking in the coming seasons as you can kind of continue to build. What things have you excited for these next coming seasons?
just the competitiveness of the schedule that we're playing. We just got done with this season, and we probably played the highest ranked schedule that we've played in the last decade. And it's just a process of coaches, like myself and other coaches, that we get to know one another. We get invitations after a few years into this event, and this event has a higher stacked field. This is the first year where we've always found ourselves towards the bottom of the rankings in a particular tournament, especially this spring. We annually go out to Phoenix for Loyola Maryland's tournament, and Coach Beloga there has really done a fantastic job of getting the best possible field. It's early in the season. It's in February, and it's he's getting a lot of West Coast teams out there on the western part of the United States to come down there. So the teams from the Northeast who aren't playing golf are coming down there, and we're playing against Utah teams, California teams, Arizona teams. So it's pretty good. And then the last 3 years, we've been going out to San Diego to Torrey Pines and playing UCSD's event there. The first 2 years we played at Torrey Pines North, which is a great golf course. When I was stationed in the Marines at Camp Pendleton, I used to drive down there on the weekends and do the whole parking lot thing at 5 a.m., put the lights on, and then the starter would come out and get us in order. And I used to do that all the time, so I got to play those courses and loved it. But playing a college tournament on those courses, and then this year for the first time we got to play Torrey Pines South. And I tell you what, when it blows on Torrey Pines South and you're playing from 7,600 yards, that's a beast of a golf course. So, and we found that out very quickly. And that's another tournament that the coach there, Fred Hanover, is doing a great job of just elevating the competition at the event. And we really struggled because it's March and we're not playing golf here in March in the Northeast. So the only golf we have is when we travel to warmer climates. So that was the second event actually the third event. We had driven down to Myrtle Beach and played App State's event at the Surf Club. So those are three events, boom, right? Not back to back to back, but spread out by 2 weeks between each one. That was phenomenal competition for us at our level. And then we played Maryland's event down at the PBDI course in Maryland, and then finished up our regular season at Penn State at the Rutherford, which they host every year. So that's 5 events that are arguably the best competition that we've played in a spring in a long, long time. Now, we've played in some good events, but not 5 consistently higher ranked events than we normally played 10 years ago, if you will.
Yeah, that's just some of them. I'm just like, ooh, like, ooh. Let me catch a tail and come play some practice rounds with you guys. Like, ooh, like
Yeah.
let me know where you guys are going. Let me tag along for a little bit. That's exciting. That's awesome. So, are you guys kind of like, now that you got the invitation to play? Is it one of those that, hey, now we get to kind of play in these things going forward? Yes.
You still have to perform. It happens at every event and every venue, and I do it at my invitational. Is that you try to freshen the competition within the event by bringing in the best teams that you can. So maybe you talk to the coaches who finished at the bottom of the event, say, hey, look, I'm going to give you a break for a year. You need to retool, and you're just saying to everybody, you need to be as competitive as you can. And I realize that, and we just need to keep playing as good a golf as we can, or else we might be looking for another event to fill a spot if we don't get the re-invite, because they're called invitationals for a reason. You are invited to play. You have no right to say I get to play in that every year. You have to bring a solid team. You have to be competitive, and you have to up the level of play at the tournament. So
Yeah, that is a big thing, and I know amongst the coaching ranks that kind of holds true, and just having that ability to be able to actually say that also as a coach, and to have that backing, and to continue to keep that competitiveness of the tournament, but to just be able to go coach to coach and be like, hey, like, not this year, wait, like, get a couple guys, come back. And that ability is a big thing. So let's, again, let's do kind of closing message for everyone. If there's something that you want to say, if there's a way to, maybe to a recruit, or maybe just a different coach, or just a general message to anyone who's listening, this is just the general open floor. Anything that you want to mention or say, it's a no real question. It's a weird way to even pose it up, but it's just open stands for you.
okay. Well, I'll go back to when I started coaching. So I briefly mentioned I was in the Marines for 20 years. I served from 1988 to 2008, and retired in 2008, and got into coaching via my good friend there at St. Francis. And the whole time I've been here, for the years I was at St. Francis, and the 11 years I've been here, I always preach to these guys, it's about you as a person, the whole person, and not just how you play the game of golf. Because I've seen some really good golfers play some really good golf, but not really act the way I think a gentleman should act on the golf course. So I've always tried to instill in my guys, when you're out there, you're representing the school. So I'm going to call you out if you're not treating the game with respect, and that means how you act, how you talk, how you treat your fellow competitors. When I go on recruiting trips to go watch kids play, invariably I will see some kid who will be cussing out his mom because his mom is watching him play and she's, clapping at an inappropriate time, and I'm just like, this woman who had you is your mother. You're treating her so poorly, and I've just seen too much of that. So, for my guys, it's about honor and respect. I don't treat these guys. I was in the Marines for 20 years. I don't treat these guys like a Marine squad, but I try to instill in them the competitive nature, but also to be a gentleman when they play this game. When I first started, um, I saw some of that behavior on my team, and I cut it off after the first semester. Sat down and talked to the guys and said, "Hey guys, we need to change our attitude." So what I did over the winter break is I asked them all to go home for the winter. I gave them the names of some fallen soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, guys who had been killed in combat, and I gave each of them a name. And I said, "Please do me a favor and research these guys, find out who they were, find out what the circumstances of their where they were when they died, the awards that they might have been given, and just be ready to talk about them like these guys." And so when they came back for winter break, we sat down in our conference room and our team meetings, and each one of them volunteered, "Hey, I'll go first, coach," whatever. So they stood up and gave like just a 2 or 3 minute brief on these guys that I'd given to them. And I said, "Well, why do you think I did this, guys?" And they were like, "Well, uh, they basically said, well, we need to understand that life is a little bit worth a little bit more than just playing the game of golf and putting a little white ball in a hole, and not losing your mind on the golf course just because you hit a bad shot." And I said, "That's right. I'm never going to love you 1 ounce less if you hit a bad shot. I'm going to be upset with you if you give up on yourself and you don't respect the game. That's what I care about. I care about you as a person more than I do about you as a golfer." And what I didn't tell them then, and until they were done with it, is I had 10 guys on the team, so there were 10 names. 7 of the 10 names were actually good friends of mine that I'd lost over the course of 20 years of serving in the Marine Corps. And I said, "It's doubly important for me that you do this and do it." So after the season, it was remarkable how they all kind of took to it. And to this day, the guys that graduated 10 years ago are still wearing, we have a little strap on our bag that's got the guy's name. It's black strap with gold lettering and says where they died, the day they died, and the information, their awards if they got any, and it still sits on their bag today, 10 years later. And I get guys calling me and email me, "Coach, can you send me a replacement because the strap is getting a little frayed?" So I will continue to send them these straps. I have a young, not a young lady, an older lady down in the town next door who makes all of my straps, just kind of a homegrown mom and pop operation. And I'll give them the names of new guys every year that the freshmen come in, and they'll get a new batch of names. So over the years, I've had to replace them because the guys have called and said, "Coach, I need this. I need a new strap for this guy's name." So I think it's really cool, and they're proud. They're walking tall on the golf course. They got this guy's name on their bag. And one of the things that we do, it's a promise to one another that if somebody asks you about the strap on your bag, you actually have to tell them that story. You have to tell the story of that guy. So that guy's legacy is paid forward every time he gets to retell that story. So it's pretty cool. And it's just been something that I've done, organically with my team since I started. And I'll keep doing it until I'm retired and moving on to something else. So, yeah, Bucknell, we're for us to go to the NCAAs, we need to win our conference championship, which would be phenomenal. But the likelihood that Bucknell is going to go to the national championships is not. We're not at that level yet. I would dream of doing something like that, but I want these guys to graduate better human beings than when they got here. Not that they're not fantastic guys, and during the recruiting process, I try very hard to make sure that I'm recruiting the best kids that I can for the team. But when they leave here, they're just a better version of themselves, and that's really where I'm coming from. Is that I'm not going to turn these guys into PGA Tour players. Understandably, I would love to see them play professional golf, and some of them are. In fact, I had 2 of my alums, Peter and Blake just Monday qualified for a Corn Ferry event last summer, and Peter actually made the cut and cashed a check for on the PGA Tour or his PGA sanctioned event. So that was wicked cool for us because
Nice.
that's never happened before. I've got one of my freshmen just did local qualifying. He got through to sectionals, and a former player of mine is he also got through. So it's kind of neat seeing guys play at a higher level. So kind of proud of that. So
That's awesome. And I think the main thing in for all of this, and I think you basically summed it up perfectly, because I mean, the way that you're going about all of that, and basically, hey, there's a bigger thing going on here than the game of golf. We need to be gentlemen, respect, honor, dignity. And the way that you play the game matters. The way that you respect the game matters. The way that you show up on the course matters. The way you are off the course matters. When you have nothing to do with golf anymore matters. And growing up, being a good human being, being a good man, and understanding that outside of the golf course and what you did with those fallen soldiers and friends of yours, and thank you for your service. And I respect you for your service, and what you're doing now after that, and letting all of those legacies compound and double themselves on and more organically through the roots, through all of those vines, throughout all of the different guys that you know that they've had a chance to talk to and tell that story to. But not only that, changing some of their lives, maybe completely diverting them on a completely different path, and changing all of that direction for something outside. The fact that they continue to replace them, they continue to update them, that's something that's more like bonded in, and I absolutely love it. It's absolutely incredible. I can't thank you enough for what you're doing, for that, for your service, for all of the things wrapped together in a bow and a package. Like, I respect everything about all of what you and how you built that, and what you're doing going forward, because that, at the end of the day, is the main thing. Sports are a fake world, but they're
yes,
real, to tell real examples without the real pain on the outside.
one hundred
So
percent.
you can teach all the same stuff relatively and make an impact, but make it true to the real world. And again, I can't thank you enough. I respect you so much, Coach. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. And
Appreciate it.
good luck for everything going forward. It's just, I love it. I'm going to be watching out, and we'll definitely stay in touch, because, like I said, I'm probably going to hit you up about some of those practice rounds. If it's anywhere close,
Sure,
I'm going to hit you up
sure.
about it,
All
and
right.
we'll go
Yep,
about it.
absolutely.
But thanks, Coach. You have a great day.
You too now.